the guy that we just did this deal with, he was going to do another deal, and he's a real estate agent. He was going to buy some multi-use commercial thing. I can't remember what it was now, but anyway, he needed out of this note, and he'd had it for 2 years, and he'd gone to another guy and told him, hey, you can make such and such interest rate. Well, the guy fell out. I mean, he just flaked out. So he comes back to me then after we talked about it initially, and he pulls it out from under me, and he says, are you still interested? And I said, yeah. Well, my big motivation was he does all kinds of stuff, and it was really following what you were saying, because these guys are out there doing stuff all the time. If you follow through and get a deal done with them, then they'll remember you. And then they'll also, when their friend comes up against something as well that's good, they'll come to you too, because they say, well, I had a guy that he really was all, great for it, but he flaked out, but, Tom will close it. And that's my point, is it's just as much the relationship. And then they say, oh, he'll think outside the box to get this thing done. And so, and deals come to you all different ways. You'll know this, that like I had a banker come to me and said, hey, I just took back these 5 houses, and I've got a tenant in one of them because I appointed a receiver and got them, but I can't loan it to them because they can't come up with 20%. So they said, but I can sell it to you, and then you can sell it to her on contract because we've negotiated the price. So you just step into my position. But if you don't kind of take care of those relationships, those things don't come to you. And that deal is the one that just paid off, which I rolled that money into the one that I just did, and I was talking about with the new guy. So anyway, I've talked enough, but I'm
No,
sure
you haven't talked. You're not having. I want to go back because I missed the context of the deal. So slow down and
yeah.
tell it to me again, because I love what you. Thank you for punctuating the concept. And it gets fun, right? Once you get a little traction and a little momentum. In the beginning, it can seem so hard to break in and how to blah, 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 but like once you get going, it's just fun. It's just pure fun putting deals together. So start all over. Start over. Real estate agent brought you something.
Yeah, actually, I've been talking to this guy for 10 years and we've never done a deal. And he 4 years ago rented this house that he owned to this couple. And then 2 years in, he sold it to him on a contract for deed. So
so it was the realtor's own.
it was his own deal, his own property.
Own deal.
And so these people that are paying have a 4-year history with the property and have never, been a problem. He was never requiring them to impound for taxes or insurance. And I said, one of my deal points is I would have to do that. And so we converted that, and they were okay with that because then they just have to pay a 12th. They don't have to come up with, a big chunk.
Right.
But that's what the context was. It was his personal investment property, and he needed to exit that to get the cash to do his commercial deal. And so that's what the point was.
Fantastic. And so, what was the yield that what was the face rate on the note, the contract for deed?
The note was 10. And
not bad.
By the time we discounted it, my yield's about 14. So
nice.
And there's only 8 years to go on it. So it's not like it's going to be a huge long-term deal because it amortizes out in in 8 years, but it was still a good transaction. So it goes back to me wanting to do a deal with this guy so that, we can do other stuff in the future too.
Yeah. Okay. So that's fantastic. And if you did, 10%, it sounds like, gosh, you should have just given him par, greedy investor, right? No, but when you look at the calculator for something that is short amortization, it's hardly worth it's all principal coming back.
Right.
And so it's hardly worth the paperwork to put the deal together. So on those short amortizations, the actual yield on the calculator looks enormous. Like a lot of times 18%, 30%, 50%. Like on a really, really short amortization, like if it's not 50%, it's not worth even, opening up the Word document to do it.
Yeah, I never would put one on a 10-year am. I would do them on 20 because then I think you have something to work with. Plus, for the kind of buyers that you've got, which for some reason they either have a credit issue or whatever, it's more affordable if you just stretch it out, even if they have to pay a little bit more interest. And so anyway, without taking advantage of anybody, which I don't want to do that, but I mean, they're not credit worthy for some reason, and so you can help them and they can own their house.
No, I'm, when I said don't be greedy, I'm just playing devil's advocate because that's what, real estate investors and note investors, we can look like we're just, some people think, oh, you guys are, you know, taking advantage of people, but like we provide a service.
Right. I'm not a bank,
And
I mean,
I'm not against making a profit at
yeah.
all. I love making a profit.
And I've had people say that. I've got another one where I got 9%, and this was 2 years ago. Somebody said to me, well, what kind of interest rate? 9%. Oh my goodness. How do you do that? That's terrible, And I said, not really. I mean, they own a house now that they would have never owned, and it's very affordable for them. So.
Exactly. And it's affordable for them. You're giving them a chance. With the contract for deed, what I don't like is being on title to property.
Oh yeah.
That's one of my biggest problems. Contract for deed, I don't pretend, if I had one, which I did have back in the day, I gotten away from it. But, when the assumption was, oh, then you can just evict someone if there's a default instead of having to foreclose. That's not true. Pretty much you're gonna, even if a contract for deed lease option, you better be you might not have to, but you better be ready to foreclose because these days they can be deemed to have equitable interest, and you don't want to get in trouble with that. I don't know. What's your take on it? I just don't like being on title to property. Being on title to property is a landmine. Stuff
That
can
is
happen.
that's the best reason not to do it. I mean,
Yeah.
the forfeiture project or process is very short here, and the equity redemption is such a pain on mortgages, and we don't really use deeds of trust in this state, so you don't have that middle ground where it's in between the two. So you either got the big old foreclosure with a mortgage, or you got a contract for deed, and I've never had trouble forfeiting one, but I know that is an issue. And then also coming on title, if you have any kind of environmental issue or something weird, it used to be not so much now, but if there was a meth lab or something like that,
Yeah.
which they really poison your property, but usually not. I mean, there's downside to it. Sure, I get that.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. What a rich sharing.